Hey friends, thanks for joining in on another episode of the Patch Tennis series, where myself and YouTuber Chalkwalk Music have been exploring sound design using the ASM Hydrasynth and the Arturia Minifreak. This is Game 1, Shot 6. Let's do this. So the last 5 episodes, Chalkwalk and I have been continuing to challenge each other to use these synths in new and interesting ways. And this episode will be no different. Chalkwalk sent me his return patch video from episode 5, which I'll link to the screen now, as well as add the series playlist to the video description below. If this is your first time checking out this series, I encourage you to start from episode 1 just to get a better understanding of its format. As always, if you enjoy this content, be sure to like and subscribe, as well as leave a comment on if it was helpful. I'd love to know what synths you own and what your process is when designing sounds. Alright, to get started, let's check out Chalkwalk's return patch, which was made on the Hydrasynth and placed to a complimentary video of his choice. And as I'm listening, I'll start to think about how to curate the response on the Minifreak. Let's check it out. Yeah, so that was a fantastic patch from Chalkwalk. I had to reach out to find out exactly what was going on in order to do my best to create something that's similar on the Minifreak. So, Chalkwalk said to me that he was using the step sequencer, which is a very unique feature to the Hydrasynth, and it is not available on the Minifreak. However, I can utilize the square waves on LFO 1 and 2 to get a similar effect, so I think that that's where we're going to start. Also, I'm going to try and use just the basic waves here, just a simple saw wave for this patch, and see how close I can get to something that is in the same realm of that sound without having to mess with the oscillator section at all. So let's just try that out. So we have an initialized patch here. I'm going to go into the arpeggiator, turn on pattern, and hold last step and click 8 steps for the pattern. So as I hold a chord, it will generate a pattern based off of those notes that I'm selecting and generate a random and repeating pattern that's 8 steps long. I'm going to go into the tempo here and change that, change the time division. You hear how it repeated the pattern that it generated for us. Going to go into the mod matrix. Start modulating the LFO, LFO 1. For the purposes of this not getting too annoying, I'm going to turn the arpeggiator off. Select LFO 2, move the wave to square, go back to LFO 1 here, change that to square as well. and dial in the pitch to where I like it. Maybe an octave up. It's pretty cool. Now I'll do the same thing for LFO2, but first I'm going to check it out to see what it's like on 2 octaves up. Maybe set it back to just 1 octave. Alright, I'm going to go into the mod matrix again and start changing the pitch for LFO2. Maybe I'll go 2 octaves up. Really starts to get wild. I think part of that is because I don't have the LFOs synced to each other yet. Here we go. I'm going to change the LFO sync. 16ths. Just trying things out here, seeing if I can get something that's interesting enough. That could be interesting, but probably not for this particular application. I like that. Going to change the range back down to maybe an octave, maybe below, an octave lower. Okay, great. Just gonna slow that down maybe. Right now it's set to poly as far as the LFOs, so we will keep that there for now. Add a bit of delay, maybe sync that to the tempo by holding shift, moving over to one of the synced types. Okay. Okay, we're starting to get somewhere with this. Let's go into effect slot 1. Turn on the phaser. All right, I'm going to slow down the tempo a little bit now. Phasing effect's a little hot. I'm going to change the rate, which is associated with the time knob. Turn that down a little bit. Let's go ahead and modulate the filter. Might get into the mod matrix. And could utilize the cycling envelope. This is going to repeat the envelope on run mode. Just try and find a sweet spot. Going to go into effect slot 3. Maybe add a bit of bit crusher. The video had quite a bit of kind of artifacts and glitchiness, so I think adding some reduced bitrate might be nice. Definitely adds a very unique character to this. Yeah, I'm really liking this. This is nice. So I think what I'll do is slow down the tempo and see how that sounds paired with the video from Chalkwalk. Let's check it out. Great, so I think that worked out pretty well. Let's make our way to the return patch. So I don't have anything in particular that I'm trying to achieve, so I'm just going to kind of make my way through these oscillator types and find something that's interesting. Let's start with an initialized patch. Okay, start sifting our way through the oscillator types until I find something I enjoy.
Frequency.
Oh, cool. So let's go ahead and mess around with modal. This is an interesting one. So this oscillator type's based around excitation. So it can replicate a lot of different acoustic instruments and percussive sounds. So we do have the in-harm knob, the wave knob related to the in-harm, which is the inharmonic resonances that are excited, which can make that woody to metallic sound. We have the timbre knob, which is the brightness of the exciter. And then the decay knob, which is how quickly the resonance is dampened. Get some plucky sounds there. I'll try increasing the release time, which you won't really experience that until you increase the decay knob. Fantastic, I can work with that. So let's go ahead and hop on over to oscillator 2, and I think I'll try out the phaser filter. Now you won't really hear what's happening until I start moving the wave, timbre, and shape knob. Even with the feedback, you can't really tell until you can hear the wave knob being modulated, which corresponds to the cutoff. So I think what we're going to want to do is go into the mod matrix here, into LFO1, and start modulating the wave knob of oscillator 2. Let's go ahead and slow it down. Right now we have a triangle wave. It's nice. Go back into oscillator 1. Kind of exploring. Okay, great. That's sounding interesting. Now I want to maybe increase the modulation of brightness and just get a little bit more texture here. So I'm thinking about moving to the timbre of oscillator 1, which corresponds to the brightness of the exciter, that balance of the low and the high frequencies. And this is going to affect which harmonics are being excited. So from what I can tell, the timbre effect is not actualized until a new note is triggered. And so the modulation using this cycling envelope is not going to produce the effect alone. Now perhaps if I change the cycling envelope type to loop or run, every time a new note's triggered, I may notice a sonic difference based on where the timbre modulation point is. And there we go. Now it's just about trying to dial in the amount of cutoff, how much of that is being sent to the ADSR envelope. And perhaps instead of having that modulation, I'm going to remove that cycling envelope modulation to the timbre knob and just dial it in where I want something consistent on each note. Now maybe the brightness of the higher notes a little too harsh for me, so maybe I'll go into the mod matrix and set the keyboard to control the cutoff amount, just to soften up those high notes. So that would be more bright, but going down to negative 100 will certainly smooth out the brightness of those higher frequencies. Just checking to see how much that phaser is affecting the signal. The shape knob is affecting the amount of poles for the phaser. Right now I'm dialing in how much of the phaser filter modulation I'm looking for, which is very subjective, and it's more so just what sounds right to you in the moment. And going back into oscillator 1 and increasing the in-harm amount, see what that sounds like. Wow, interesting. It's a very bell-like sound. And that is the beauty of modal. Very cool. Okay, going back into the phaser filter. Just want to hold the note, just mess with the tonal characteristics now. I'm really liking this. This we can shift into making a bell-like sound. Very cool. Oh, and that's interesting. So now I'm just checking to hear sonically how increasing the number of poles affects the signal. So now just going through the mod matrix and trying a few different sources, perhaps the envelope modulating the pitch. It's fun. Then if I really wanted to, I could assign an LFO to the sustain knob. Right now this feels like a choose your own adventure, just having some fun and twisting some knobs. Descending in pitch, maybe more than what I prefer. That's sounding good to me. Let's go ahead into the effects section. Well, this sounds quite nice. I'm definitely a sucker for adding gain to anything and everything. Of course, there can be too much of a good thing. Now just adjusting the high pass filter, the dry wet mix. Again, all personal preference. We still have the LFO1 modulating the wave knob, which is the cutoff of the phaser filter. Alright, and going back into the oscillator 1 section, yeah, I'm pretty committed to leaving the in-harm where it's at, but now just trying out some different timbre amounts. Once again, that's the brightness of the exciter. And the decay. Changing the depth again of LFO1 to the phaser filter cutoff. Modulating the pitch just slightly using LFO2. Trying different shapes, different rates. Going back into the distortion amount. How bright the distortion is, the high pass and the low pass filter amount. Starting to get a little boxy in tone. That mid-range boost. Going into the ADSR envelope and setting the attack, decay, sustained release. It's all personal preference again. Going into effect slot 2 and turning on the delay, holding shift and changing the delay type. Perhaps just a stereo delay. A little bit of that three-dimensional space. Just adjusting the feedback amount. That's nice. Just changing the time amount using the time knob. long of a release that we can get before it gets too muddy. There's always a balance. And going into effect slot 3 and turning on the reverb. I've said this before, but the default reverb it's gorgeous. Alright, yeah, noticing that phaser filter amount and how much that is affecting the signal. Just dialing that in. I like that there. Really starting to get that down tempo vibe. I'm going to dial back the distortion amount. It's going to help me regain that clarity. Helps me find a balance to the sound. Going back into the mod matrix, I'm going to adjust the depth of LFO1 to the phaser filter cutoff. Now the amount of oscillator 2 has been decreased, so we're not at a full wet mix. It's pretty subtle. Increasing the amount again, seeing what that sounds like. Dialing in that gain. I don't want it to get too muddled. Go back into oscillator 1, just kind of trying out different decay amounts. Having some fun with it. But I think that we found a good stopping point. So what I'm going to do after this episode is create a short return patch performance, send that over to Chalkwalk so that he can create his final response patch as we start to conclude the Patch Tennis series. Thanks again for checking this video out. If you found it helpful, be sure to like and subscribe, as well as leave a comment on what content you find most enjoyable, whether it's related to synthesizers, music in general, or any other creative medium. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.